Right. Okay, it's only rock and roll, but I like it. Alright, today we're going to talk about on Mike's Anything Goes, one of my favorite Rolling Stones albums, as I've alluded to in the past. I'm a really big Rolling Stones fan, and one of my favorite albums by them, It's Only Rock and Roll. A little bit of prelude to this, I'm always, back when I was in grammar school, I was always kind of geeky, and one of my friends said to me that he made me cool because he got me into rock music. And I guess that was one of the ways that someone became cool, was by getting into a rock and roll, listening to a rock and roll band. Being rather study oriented and stuff like that, I always thought that rock and roll was decadent, and this is when Kiss came out, and they used to scare the crap out of me because those guys, it wasn't my idea of fun. This guy looking like Gene Simmons walking around, burning fire at people and drinking blood and turning them into a charcoal briquette. That wasn't my idea of fun, and actually I thought they were quite scary. But in 1978, the Stones put out the Some Girls album, which was considered kind of a hit album for them, and once I got that, I started to explore the rather extensive discography, and basically the more and more albums I got, I learned, and I think a lot of people would agree, that from pretty much 1969 to 1974, that is like the zenith of the Stones' music playing ability as a band, and that's because they had Mick Taylor. And for those of you who are Rolling Stones fans, as you recall, after the Beggars Banquet album, the Stones had to get rid of Brian Jones. Brian Jones was one of the founders of the band because he was suffering from many drug convictions. They couldn't play anywhere. The Stones wanted to go on tour in 1969, and they couldn't do it with Brian. And pretty much they were, as Keith Richards said in this movie, Rolling Stones 12 by 5, hey, cops, you're fired. And pretty much they did. However, from what I've been led to believe, that was only like a temporary thing, and I think the understanding was that if Brian Jones got better, they would take him back in. Unfortunately, that did not happen, because if you recall, within a month of him being released from the Rolling Stones, he died in that swimming pool. And there's an excellent movie called Stone, which talks about that, which suggests that he had been killed. But be that as it may, Mick Taylor took over from John Mayall's Bluesbreakers, and he was a very, very good guitar player. And basically, the Stones became, for that time, a more conventional lineup of rhythm guitar and lead guitar play, which is something that always irked Keith Richards, because Keith was like, there's not such thing as a rhythm guitar or a lead guitar. You just play guitar, and you weave in with each other if you have more than one guitar player. So be that as it may, Keith was like rhythm and Mick Taylor was lead, and there are some really stunning solos that Mick Taylor did throughout his career with the Rolling Stones. A lot of people feel that is the best version of the band. I remember in an interview with Mick Jagger a number of years ago, because the Stones, I don't know why, but they're still going, God bless them, and someone asked him about that, and he said, well, I can't really answer that, because if I said that was the best version of the band, I'd be making fun of the present version now, and I guess it's understandable. But I think we all know, all of us who are Rolling Stones fans, who've been fans with them, I mean, I thought they were old back in 1978, when they had been doing it for, 16 years, and now they've been doing it for like 50, so, so now they're really old, but they're still great in their own way. So, the history involving Mick Taylor starts with Let It Bleed and ends with It's Only Rock and Roll. And the thing about It's Only Rock and Roll is that from Beggars Banquet up until Exile on Main Street, there was Beggars Banquet, Let It Bleed, Get Your Yayas Out, Sticky Fingers, and Exile on Main Street. All those albums are considered great albums. And when the Stones put out Goat's Head Soup, that was considered like a bad album, only because it paled in comparison to those 5 great albums before it. One critic once said that the Stones were sliding out of the greatest winning streak ever when Goat's Head Soup came out. And when Goat's Head Soup was originally reviewed, and even during that decade of the 70s, it was pretty much universally panned as a bad album. But as time went on, and as more time passed between the introduction of that album and the other albums that followed Goat's Head Soup, it began to become more favorably reviewed. Now, right in between the Goat's Head Soup and Black and Blue was the album It's Only Rock and Roll, and it turns out to be Mick Taylor's last album. The period of 73 to 76 is considered the Rolling Stones' mid-70s slump. And that's only because those albums didn't sound as good as those classic albums. And where this is like the Silver Age period of the Stones. The Stones are now becoming more into like jet setting and beginning to enjoy the wealth that they had earned as musicians, and were also becoming less and less relevant to their audience, whereas they really cared, when they were in the 60s, these 16-year-olds, and now they're getting older, because they're moving into their 30s. But, so, of that triumvirate, which is considered the decline of the Stones, Song Rock and Roll is packaged right in between there, between Goat's Head Soup from 1973 and Black and Blue 1976. And I really like it, Song Rock and Roll, and it pretty much was kind of considered a rebound from Goat's Head Soup. The first song on the album is If You Can't Rock Me. When I heard that song, I was like, wow. It's a starting out, adrenaline pounding sound. Charlie Watts' drums is great. Drumming is great on that. It's a great way to start the album off. Then, followed by the Temptations cover, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, which is the Stones do a great job on that. Then they would later do another Temptations cover, right? I think it was Just My Imagination, which they did on the Sun Girls album. The third song, I'm sorry, it's Only Rock and Roll, which of course we all know. Till the Next Goodbye is the fourth song, which is a nice love song with Jagger doing his Dewey debutante. And then song number 5. Time Waits for No One. This is a great Mick Taylor swan song, which for the last 2 minutes of the song is this endless, beautiful, melodic guitar solo. It's like Mick Taylor's signature song. It's his song, and just a great song. It's 6 minutes long, but it's excellent. Side 2 starts out with Luxury, which is like this reggae-inspired song, which is also a great song. It shows that the Stones can adapt to any music style, and this was their version of reggae. The refrain was, I'm working so hard, I'm working for the company. When I was like, wow. I was like, this song's great. Song number 7 is Dance Little Sister. That was also considered the hit song of this album, along with the title track of Rock and Roll. I don't really like that song too much. In fact, I like the non-hit songs better than the supposed hit songs. Song number 8 is If You Really Want to Be My Friend. If You Really Want to Be My Friend. It's another great song. It's a little on the long side, but some really good lyrics by Mick. Song number 9 is the throwaway song called The Short and Curlies, and it gets this funky piano at the beginning, and it's like, she's got you by the balls. And it sounds like Mick is saying she's got you by the balls, because the next line is, you can't get free at all. But I bought this lyric book when I used to play drums for It's On Rock and Roll, and the words are boards, B-O-A-R-D-S. But Mick is like, bow, so it sounds like, something else. And the final song is Fingerprint File, which is heavy synthesizer-based song, like a 1984, being watched all the time by the government and, the SAS. And that's the way this album ends. This is just a good album, and it's I would give it from an A to an F and B. Most critics thought that this was a good album, but unfortunately, it didn't yield. It wasn't a number one. It didn't yield the number one single. I don't think it's Song Rock and Roll or Dance Little Sister cracked made it to number 1, which was like the first time in a long time. But it still, I thought was good, and I thought was better than the subsequent album, Black and Blue. I really don't like Black and Blue. There's some really ironic little tidbits regarding Eternal Rock and Roll. This is believed to be the reason why Mick Taylor left, because one, Mick Taylor claims that he was supposed to be given a lot of song credit for a number of songs on the album, and he wasn't. And actually, during an interview, when he said he did this song and that song, the interviewer showed him the record sleeve, and he didn't see his name on anything. So that really annoyed him, because he felt that Mick Jagger had kind of backstabbed him. And Mick Taylor had kind of felt that personally, this is a period of time during the 70s when Keith was taking a little bit too much heroin and was starting to not really participate as a creative influence in the band, and Mick Taylor was kind of filling that gap in with Mick Jagger, and he felt that he should have been recognized for that. Another thing is that Mick Taylor wanted to tour the Eternal Rock and Roll album, and usually the Stones were pretty much touring at this point 3 years a clip. So when 1975 was going to start, the Stones said, we're not going to tour and we're going to record Black and Blue. Ironically, the Stones wound up touring in 1975. For some reason, they started recording Black and Blue, and then they stopped, and they decided to tour. And Mick Taylor was already gone by then. Mick Taylor left in December of 1974, so in 75, they wound up touring anyway. So that really ended his career. And it's kind of ironic, because he was 20 years old, being the lead guitarist in the world's greatest rock and roll band, and then at 25, falling into obscurity. In fact, I don't even know what he did after that. I remember seeing him at Chiller Theater conventions. I mean, how do you go from being in the world's greatest rock and roll band that's still going today to playing Chiller Theater and just basically becoming unknown, dropping into like anonymity again? But I'm telling you that, please listen to this album. I think that you'll find it a very good album. And of course, it's not Let It Bleed. It's not Beggar's Banquet, or but it's a good album, and I think that you'll really enjoy it. And you'll really enjoy Mick Taylor's contribution. I can't say enough about how good of a guitar player he was. I don't think that he's gotten the full recognition. I mean, he started to now get the full recognition that he deserves. I mean, everybody who's into that period of time, and if you become a Stones fan, listen to 69 to 74, like Let It Bleed, and Get Your Yayas Out, and Sticky Fingers, and Eggs on Main Street, and even Goat's Head Soup, and and It's on Rock and Roll. Those last two albums, Mick Taylor is in control, because Keith was kind of like out of it pretty much as a functional level. But it's really a great album, and I hope that you enjoy it. Please listen to it. Like I said, if I was going to give it a scale from A to F, I'd give it like a B. It's got problems, but it's a good album, and it's definitely worth a listen. And so I hope that you enjoy this version of Mike's Anything Goes. And please let me know what you think, and I hope to hear from you.